Thanks to everyone for coming. We're going to get kicked off, so really appreciate everyone making the time, and thank you to Digital Hollywood. My name is Todd Bayless. I'm a partner with Deloitte in their media and entertainment practice. My focus is really helping clients in two primary areas, one with video distribution, both strategy and capabilities, and then second is in advertising, both in TV and digital, again with capabilities and strategy. So I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves here in 10 seconds. This is the Video Anytime, Anywhere panel, so if you think you're supposed to be somewhere else, we hope that you stay anyway. So, and I think the name of the panel speaks for itself. So I'm going to hand it over to Sharuz, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Hey, I'm Sharuz. I work at a company called Super Deluxe. We're a new entertainment company within Turner Entertainment. And we focus on incubating digital talent throughout multiple platforms, everything from digital video, social content, interactive games, apps, all the way up to television.
I'm Hillary Henderson. I'm a product director at IBM Watson Media. IBM recently acquired a couple of video companies. I came through that acquisition called Clearleap and another company called Ustream, and we focus on video publishing, subscriber management, all the components that you need for a direct-to-consumer streaming service. As part of IBM and Watson Media, what we're really focused on currently is applying Watson technologies that are already out there to solving specific media and entertainment use cases and problems, and looking forward to talking a little bit more about that.
My name is Neil Dieter. I work in business development at Cisco. Cisco, we push more video around the world than anyone as a function of pushing the zeros and ones around the world. We do everything from the large primary distribution satellites down to the apps and everything that goes in between for the monetization, including the ads, the closed captioning, everything you need to do for broadcast at, we'll say, a professional level or a monetizable level.
All right, I'm Rick Capstraw. I'm with Verizon Digital Media Services. So we have a global content delivery network called Edgecast and a video management and delivery platform called Uplink. And we deliver video anytime, anywhere. So it's very appropriate. Of course, Verizon has a whole host of owned and operated video properties as well, but our group is a business-to-business video platform delivery service. So we work with major broadcasters and content owners across the world to deliver to their owned and operated consumer platforms.
Awesome. So thank you very much. We're going to take about 40 minutes or so with a series of questions that we've prepared, and then we're going to take the last 15 or 20 to let everyone out there, answer whatever questions they'd like to our panel. So we hope that you think of some good ones that we could ask. So we're going to start off with Sharuz. Sharuz is in the interesting designation as the only one there who creates content on a regular basis. So we appreciate having you as part of the panel. So we know that in today's world there is a myriad of panels, a myriad of platforms for which you can create content. That's the interesting titles that you create, and then all the interstitial content that goes around that. So I guess my question and our question to you is, how do you work through the strategy and process of deciding what content goes where, and how you create all the incremental content that you have to use for marketing purposes and other ways?
Sure. I'll try to go through a specific example to kind of highlight exactly what that process looks like for us. About a year and a half ago, we started working with an internet character called Joanne the Scammer. I'm not sure how many in the audience are familiar. That's what I expected. It's a character that originated on Instagram. It's an African American man cross-dressing and pretending that he is an affluent celebrity, essentially, and trying to scam her way to the top. So we identified this character. It had a following around 250,000 on Instagram, and we saw that there was something there. And we brought Brandon Miller, who's the actor that plays that character, in, and started working through concepts in terms of like, where do we want to see this character in this IP within the next couple of years. And we decided that the best output, the ideal output for her, was in the form of a television show. The downside, though, was that we couldn't take an Instagram character and immediately give it a television show. There was obviously no audience expectation there. that Brandon had never worked on a video that involved more production than just pointing his Instagram camera at himself. So there was a lot of training, a lot of coaching to do. So we started looking at specific projects that we could do leading up to that. And we started with some short films that we ended up putting on YouTube and Facebook just to get the widest distribution so that people could start understanding that this character that they're typically only seeing within really low budget square videos on Instagram feeds is actually capable of entertaining them for 15 to 20 minutes in the form of high production, storytelling or story-based video. And throughout that, we're doing this intentionally to help develop the eventual TV show. And we're using technology as well in the form of, we made an app called Scamoji based on the popular Kimoji app that shot up to #1 in the paid app store this year. Again, just looking at, here's the character, here's what we understand about that character, how do we help provide a platform for it to reach the most people in the best way possible. In terms of technology, one of the best ways that we improvised was around this time last year, I want to say September 1st, the VMAs were happening, the MTV Video Music Awards. And during that time, Drake and Rihanna there was all these rumors going around of, are they dating? They were definitely playing up the mystery. And what our team ended up doing was we noticed the URL drakeandrihanna.com was available. We grabbed it. We didn't have any idea what we wanted to do with it, so we just put up a 10-day countdown timer. Just simple black page, white Helvetica text, 10-day countdown timer. We thought, all right, we got 10 days to figure out what we were going to do with this. Turns out the music press moves a lot faster than that, so within 3 hours of us registering the domain, getting the countdown timer up, there were articles in Fader, Pitchfork, Complex, everything, you name it, saying, what is this website about? We've reached out to Drake, we've reached out to Rihanna, they all deny having anything to do with it. It's a hoax. So at that point, our whole team is like, all right, well, we got excited about it, nothing. But there's still thousands of people looking at this domain right now, so we should figure something out. So we ended up calling Brandon, who plays Joanne, and just said, hey, here's the situation. We've got drakeandrihanna.com. We don't know what to do with it. Brandon was at the VMAs the day before as Joanne the Scammer, so he ended up sending us back a 2-minute video of him essentially taking credit for the whole thing, turning it into his first actual scam in the real world. So essentially taking that character out of these square videos and inserting them into the real world through the form of an actual scam that they had pulled. And we ended up just posting that video up without waiting the 10 days because we knew we had eyeballs on the page already. And all of a sudden, the audience that was already there to talk about Drake and Rihanna and to speculate, who also have a high affinity with Joanne the Scammer, all of a sudden they had content from a character that they really loved, scamming them in the real world. And the next day, TMZ called Joanne the Scammer up. She did an interview in character, essentially saying that she paid 15 grand for the website and it was worth it as revenge on Drake for snubbing her. So the whole thing's insane, but essentially we're using any kind of technology that we can think of, whether it's a simple web page, whether it's an app, whether it's interactive video, to just bring that character into the real world the best way that we can.
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
Do you do different content, or do you find that different content works better on a given platform? So you do something different for Facebook than YouTube, than Snapchat, obviously, but and do you consider that in production time? Like, are you shooting those all differently at the same time?
I believe the way, we've definitely experimented with every form of thinking about that as possible. I believe the way it's done now is that we always end up shooting with one script in mind and just do different cuts for each platform. Usually the variations are primarily about length. We know that
The Post will deal with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Neil, I'm going to ask you a question because I think it's pretty interesting. I know that I've read enough about it, and I've been to a couple shows where they exist, and you hear them saying, them being the YouTube stars, that they want to be in TV, right? So it's kind of funny because you hear all these stars and celebrities and all these big media companies trying to be more like YouTube, and then there are the celebrities that created YouTube saying, I want to be in TV because that's where all the money is.
TV pays.
What's that?
TV pays.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you've had quite a history of creating content. along with working for technology companies. So what are your thoughts on what is the future for these celebrities? Are they creating TV for all platforms, or?
Until there's another way to make money, in a lot of ways, YouTube is the comedy store, right?
Yeah.
Where you're finding talent and, you get snatched out of Instagram to Super Deluxe, which is Turner, right? And then Turner's going to help you monetize. And the goal is Super Deluxe, you're going to get to TV, right? And for as much as, there are people making a lot of money on YouTube, but not most. The number is opaque, but it's not that large, and people go where the money is. So with all these technologies, when you can figure out how to monetize it, that's really when things will start to change.
Show me the money.
You got to pay the creators, or they won't create.
Interesting. So I watch a lot of TV, and every time I turn on TV these days, there's one thing that is very relevant for me, and that's that AI is going to take over the world. We're all going to be, living next to Cylons. We're not sure who they are yet, but we're going to find out. And Hillary is out there masterminding most of this.
Destruction of the world.
Right, the destruction of the world. So Hillary, Watson is obviously a big part of IBM's strategy and their plans for the future. So help us understand, how does IBM take advantage of Watson in media and entertainment?
Yeah, that's our specific unit's mission and kind of IBM's vision for acquiring these video companies. So Watson is a set of, I'm sure you guys have seen it if you have watched any of the US Open or anything like IBM ads out there. They're doubling down on Watson. So we're infusing Watson kind of across industries. And media and entertainment is the latest area to do it. And specifically, what I was going to say is Watson is a set of API technologies that have been out there. People are using them, experimenting with them, and our division is tasked with, okay, how do we bring those together to solve problems? So the simplest way to look at it is Watson is able to watch and listen to video and understand content, help content creators understand what's inside that video. So whether it's a live sporting event and it knows kind of this means cheering, for tennis, if someone, or this is a forehand or backhand, it can help do automatic highlight reels on that, because hey, crowd cheering, player excited. That means it was an exciting moment. Watson knows what an exciting moment is and can clip that and turn out highlight reels in real time. We did that for the Masters. We did that for the US Open. Also, if you think about it being able to just look at what's happening and what's seen, it can do things like sentiment analysis, and people were happy or sad, or this was going on, or it could probably look and even ascertain that I see people sitting with badges and speakers, maybe that's a conference. So it would tag that video with conference. So it can extract concepts as well. And when you have all this data about your video, you can solve a lot of use cases like personalization. Lots of, if you know what content is like other content, you can feed it to recommendation engines. Again, automatic highlight clipping, compliance. Oh, there was bare skin showing that, or drug use in that, and I'm distributing my content to the Middle East, and that's not cool. So how do I automatically block that out? All of this is hard to do if you don't know what's in your content without actual humans watching the video.
Interesting.
And it won't, hopefully, I don't think that use case will destroy the world. I think it'll be exceedingly helpful. We'll be watching out for it.
We don't know what it's going to do. We're willing to find out. Neil, talk to us about audience capabilities. I think that's your first question, which is how do you see media companies evolving when they're trying to understand the who, what, when, where, and why of who's in front of whatever device they're in front of when they're watching.
That's
content.
that's what Watson's about, and Cisco, we do a lot of that stuff. I'm sure you guys do it as well at Verizon, where everybody has data, and I have all this data, and it is only valuable in as I can parse it appropriately, right? Because you'll get people who eventually will, hack Watson, or some tennis player is going to figure out, hey, if I do this and that, then it'll make Watson do that. Or, those are this kind of scenario.
I think someone just ran outside with a Twitter announcement that Watson's been hacked. So the PR people have to go.
It's not actually hacking Watson. It's taking advantage of known behavior. Gaming Watson. Thank you. I'm walking back. Now, Watson is very secure. We collect data. What's interesting about when you're moving through switches, you're moving on mobile networks, you're moving other places, where you can gather that data and groups of data. Getting person's watching show X, they fast forwarded at this time or dropped off at this time. That's really valuable data. If I can get everything connected and then figure out how to parse it correctly, but it really comes back to, can I make the network more efficient and save money and make all of this cost less to do, so I can pay creators? And can I make that data tell me what I need it to, not what I want it to, what I need it to, what it really, the story it really has to tell, because you can massage it any way you want, right? And that's where I think that's what's interesting me about the future, and what I know a lot of people are working on within the video realm.
Absolutely.
I think that's the data and what you can do with it immediately in real time is what's interesting to me, and hopefully to everyone here. It's kind of TV everywhere all the time. We're there already, right? We all have 75 apps on our phones that you can watch any number of things on. But what's kind of frustrating to me, just from a consumer standpoint, is it's just TV on my phone. And Shrew's talked a little bit about kind of different platforms and doing different things. I think that's really interesting. But the personalization and content curation and experience differentiation, that a combination of the data and the ability of networks such as ourselves to deliver individual content to each and every person, I think is really what's interesting for the future here. You see all the churn and press is about the digital MVPDs and Hulu and DirecTV Now and what's Netflix going to do and what's Disney going to do, and so far it's all more of the same thing that just maybe costs less and is not quite as reliable yet. So it's kind of boring, right? So I think
And it makes what you want to watch that much harder to find.
Exactly. So when you've got great content creators like Shrew's and team looking at ways to do things differently, and then you've got data across analytic sets, whether it's from straight out of the network or via intelligent platforms like Watson, and then the ability to deliver it all, not just anytime, anywhere, but to any person at any given time and place, then I think that's what's really interesting about what can happen over the next 2-3 years.
So,
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay. I was just going to say, in addition to the user experience, which I think you're exactly right, that's the thing that's going to get better and better and better. If you think about Facebook is scary good and probably listens to you and can deliver you ads, something you just talked about, but we don't get the video finding us that we're interested in. And so all these technologies are going to help that, but also from the content aggregator or publishers or broadcasters perspective as far as advertising. If you know what's happening, again, in a certain part of the video, you can target that certain part of the video. We had someone come up to us at the IBC conference saying, hey, we have this data that we know that people watch. I think it was they had a lot of soap operas. I think it was a Spanish broadcaster, and we know that when people are fighting, that people are watching. So we don't want to ever have ads in the middle of a fight. People fighting, couples fighting. So could you detect that that's a couple fighting, which of course we absolutely can, and not put an ad there when we're doing kind of automated cognitive ad clipping or ad insertion.
So you do dynamic timing insertion based on content.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, our customers are kind of coming up with the use cases, right, that are going to be useful for them.
Now, do you find when content finds you that you're excited about that, or you're terrified by that?
It probably depends on, yeah.
That's where
I didn't know
That's
what
what possibly destroying the world.
this is right. You're tracking me this well.
But so that's a great question, because I think I hear from clients all the time, and we think from the industry perspective, is like, how do you measure an audience, and who's really watching the content, and how much do we trust Nielsen versus how much do we trust someone else, or maybe I should say is how much do we not trust? So I guess the question is, and maybe I'll throw it over to Rich first, which is, and I appreciate everyone's perspective. You operate a CDN, which means you have a certain amount of data that if you don't operate a CDN, you don't get. And that could be across all of your clients and all the video that's distributed. How do we get an accurate view of an audience to create currency for different types of advertising?
It's very difficult. So I think it's no surprise that the metric everyone is looking at right now is viewability. What does that mean exactly is an open question and not standardized. I think what we're starting to see now, not so much from the CDN perspective, which there's immense amount of data of what was delivered, but whether anyone watched it or not is not really measurable from CDN logs. But the ability to deliver a premium content experience within an application and a UI, I think is really where we're starting to see advertising dollars move. So yes, if I'm buying just run of video across, YouTube, relatively safe that something's happening there, but just across programmatic across the web, you have no idea what's happening there, regardless of what kind of mode level metrics you've got. But all of the, or not all, but a big chunk of advertising dollars is still starting to go toward digital. And I think the big winner of that is, despite my lack of enthusiasm about branded and MVPD services as they exist today, they provide an immense amount of advertising inventory assigned to premium content that publishers and brands want. So I think the ability for us to kind of target exactly what content and people and users and the conjunction of all three of those really is what's delivering value to a brand advertiser, as opposed to the still kind of Wild West of programmatic video ad buys.
Interesting. Anyone else want to add anything?
What I find very difficult about the programmatic is to his point, like you just have to completely trust the platform. Right. And you'll see, and a lot of times, clicking start for 10 frames is a view. Right. So if I'm buying advertising, how do I show that ROI to my boss?
It's a massive multi-dimensional problem,
it's
right?
A big problem.
Which is
there's no transparency.
How do I create a methodology to decide that someone's there, right? Or let's just say that a video has been viewed, and then how do I create a methodology that everyone agrees to that it's an actual human, and what quantifies or is considered an impression or not?
I was going to say, just really nothing to add kind of broadly to what you just said, but just an interesting kind of advertising use case weather company, IBM also bought a weather company, and which I thought was actually a strange acquisition at the time. Like, why would they be buying the Weather Channel? But it's all about
data.
The data. So, and the weather company actually has a big B2B business, so selling airlines on weather data and things like this. And so Watson Ads out of the weather company just launched, and they're able to take weather data and target ads to people. For instance, they saw uplift in Campbell's Soup buying when they targeted a Campbell's Soup ad when it was raining in that person's region, which I thought was really fascinating. So it's only it's one piece. I don't know what the other broad advertising use cases are with weather data, but they know where you are at all the time, right? Because the app, their app is on all these phones, and the location data is pretty fascinating.
That's really interesting. I mean, I never thought about the weather data, but it's a good analysis, not just of advertising, but I would love to see us get to the point where we're doing content as well. So if you're Sony Crackle and it's raining in Minnesota, should you be promoting more kind of like rom-com stuff, because that's what people want to sit down with a bowl of popcorn and watch. I don't know.
This
what
is what
that
Hallmark does for
analysis
Christmas.
is, but if you can use any of that kind of data to increase engagement time, then increased engagement equals more monetization.
That's efficacy
in almost
of ads,
in almost every, whether it's ads or subscription or whatever.
Cool. So let's go back to Rick one more time and just talk about the content supply chain, because I know VDMS is obviously heavily invested in helping clients move video to where it needs to go so it can be distributed. So how do you see the evolution of digital and TV potentially coming together at some point, so we're not just having a broadcast supply chain and then a digital supply chain?
It will be a long time coming, I think. So, and I'll, for the purpose of this, define supply chain as delivery side. other folks here who can talk about the production supply chain. But especially in broadcast, you're dealing with 30, 40, 50, 70-year-old broadcast systems. And even though one company uses Grass Valley for playout and another company uses Grass Valley for playout, they're not the same. And actually we're 3 generations back because we didn't want this new feature. So it's true that an amazing amount of the work that we do on an ongoing basis for prepping broadcast content for OTT or TVE distribution is figuring out all of those interconnection points between the broadcast chain. Specifically for live is very difficult, and then when you start getting to 200, 300, 400 plus local television affiliate networks that could have anything from something their owner's cousin wrote on a HP server under a desk somewhere to a real broadcast workflow. It gets immensely complex. So I think it's starting in VOD where when studios are creating their masters, whether they're theatrical content or television content, they're doing it with the intent of digital distribution in place. So from a content perspective, doing a whole lot of different ancillary, second screen, added content pieces. But even from a technology perspective, really trying to centralize across a specific technology, codec and format, although even now, UHD starts to come in, 4K, 6K, whatever comes next, and we have to go back and remaster all that stuff. So VOD kind of comes first, broadcast, I don't know. I don't honestly know how we're going to get there, other than possibly the digital MVPD helps again there, where if you're CBS and you need to deliver 300 affiliate feeds to 17 different digital MVPDs, they all don't want to have to integrate a complete hodgepodge of signals and formats and triggering mechanisms and ad insertion mechanisms. So at some point it's going to have to standardize, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. We were talking earlier about how you can build a nice, wonderful, clean, cloud-based video distribution platform, but then it all just goes to hell as soon as you talk to your first customer because they all need something special for their own snowflake infrastructure. But the only way is more and more experience and building toward a hopefully unified future.
So I know in this one world, a cable executive said to me, addressable television at national scale is a unicorn. And this was the guy who was responsible for advanced TV in a big cable company. I was like, how can you say that? Isn't your whole job predicated on addressable television? He's no longer employed. That's a different story, but I guess my question to you more is it a unicorn? Thinking that these legacy TV companies or the legacy infrastructure is going to eventually evolve, or will it just be we all move over to virtual MVPD, which has a new form of infrastructure, and therefore we're just going to sunset everything else because it's going to be irrelevant because just TV dies? Sorry if I said that out loud.
TV dies depends on your definition of TV, right? I mean,
when I think TV, I think of
TV dies.
a traffic system and
potentially.
broadcast playout
Potentially.
system,
I mean, you're
those
you're starting to see like Comcast is really a leader in this, working with content owners and broadcasters to put app-based services on the Comcast set-top box. So. Mm-hmm. Like FX is doing a really interesting FX Plus service. Sure, the standard broadcast is always still there, but I don't know what the price point is, but call it $2 a month. Mm-hmm. You can also get the entire library of all FX shows forever in history and whatever movies they have rights to, accessible via the app on your set-top box. So it's still, the same players are still there, the same kind of financial chain is still in existence, but completely bypasses the QAM-based television distribution infrastructure. So I'm bullish on broadcasters and content owners. It's just the infrastructure in which things are delivered, which is kind of in danger. And I certainly don't think addressable TV is a unicorn. Addressable TV with the current broadcast infrastructure is definitely a unicorn.
The limiting factor on that, though, really is internet speed, right, at the user and at the affiliate. So
Latency
I can watch Spectrum on a Roku, and it doesn't have all the functionality, but they'll get it there, right? They'll figure it out. But the limitation isn't, the quality needs to get there as well. But that's a latency and in a connection standpoint.
I had to look back over. I thought Bob Bowman was on our panel for a second. Sorry, if you don't know Bob Bowman, you runs BAM. He had a very famous quote at Code once about the limitations of the internet to ever deliver video.
But it's true.
It is very
It's
true.
still true. There's still 20% of the country that can't get high-speed internet or more, and a lot of the affiliates don't or can't. So
Yeah,
that mix of old laws and rules
Yeah.
needs to go away as well.
But yeah, that's exactly right. I think the old infrastructure is only around because it does live really, really well.
And live,
Because
recorded is easy, live is very hard.
And as soon as the internet, as soon as the speeds are there,
Yeah.
that'll go away.
That takes a long time.
Yeah.
Shrews,
Yeah.
you've been sitting there quiet long enough. So as the CTO of Super Deluxe, I'm sure you get lots of calls from guys and gals like us who want to bring technologies to you that we hope you incorporate, or resources, in my case at least, that we hope you incorporate inside of your ecosystem. So how is it that you talk to us, and when do you make decisions to bring in third parties versus building things from scratch?
Yeah. So I think the answer I'm going to give is probably not going to be a good one to hear. We're usually the people that like making the snowflakes, and so typically when we get these calls, we really look at, can we leverage this technology in an interesting way that feels unique to us and feels true to whatever IP or brand we want to attach it to, whether it's all of Super Deluxe or whether it's a specific kind of show or character that we're working with. And it really just comes down to, is there a way that we can take this service that's available for everyone and really make it seem like ours? Which I know makes building for that much more difficult. Yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, so a lot of times we're building out the tech because we come up with the ideas ourselves and just say, all right, we think if we do a lot of stuff with Facebook Live, and one of the in-house kind of tech layers that we built was a real-time kind of data stream that pulls in data from Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, any digital platform they're streaming on, looks at everything happening from shares, comments, likes, reactions, all of that, and filters that into on-screen displays that can do different things, whether it's as simple as featuring comments to more complex things like playing a game of Hangman that identifies the people that typed in the right letters at the right time. And we decided to do that because when we looked at third-party platforms that offered interactive stuff for live, it was all as simple as just polling or featured comments, and we were like, we want to do more than this. So really, that was one of the instances where we decided to build in-house instead of going to a telescope or something. But usually, if it's just about distribution, if it's just about getting a video from our servers down to the end consumer, we're probably just going to go with a third-party platform, because there's not much creativity, there's not much uniqueness we can add as part of that.
Interesting. Okay, so there is hope for some of us. That's what you're ultimately saying. It's good. I got kids that go to
Saying
college.
there's a chance.
There is a chance. Because we're all planning on calling you in the next week to come into your office. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. In all seriousness, let's go back to the Cylons and talk to Hillary and say, how does AI help us reduce manual labor inside of a media company or in our supply chain? What does it do that right now people are doing that it could do better?
In the video supply chain, obviously, again, understanding what is in your content, and then kind of use cases downstream for that is what we're focused on. So we've talked to the AP and Al Jazeera and Shutterstock, although they have more photo galleries, but they also have stock video galleries, and around different ways to syndicate and package their content. lifestyle content, right? So again, any company that's syndicating their content and wants to monetize it by distribution, or even ones with smaller libraries and just want to package it up in new, different ways with like content. Again, the only way you can do that is watching these videos, tagging the videos, and they were. These people at these conversations at AP and Al Jazeera were extremely excited that we could just, again, have Watson watch the video, listen to the video, tag it all of exactly what was happening, so that they were able to do these packages, syndicated, be able to turn around and quickly get it out to people interested in that content. And then the use case I talked about before with the highlight clipping. So not having to watch a live game and then clip, and there's some automated stuff there, but it's not, there's no technology that's really watching and understanding what's in the video. Approaching kind of cognitive intelligence, and when you have that, that's when you can really clip and start piecing together things that until now, again, only humans could do.
What about moderation?
Yes.
Going in and
So
watching
right. So compliance is regulatory compliance is a big one. We have a lot of folks who are starting to use it in that way, with either, again, for on-demand content, blocking, automatically being able to block out things that are so less so than like a comment section, right? More in the video, I'm distributing my video to the Middle East, I'm distributing it to this region. These rules, these things are forbidden. My content can't have these things in them. That would take just an impossible amount of time to edit, depending on your video library. We have an Indian company that was approaching. They had something like 250,000 hours of content, and they're distributing it, and we're able to be able to show them where they might be amiss, and be able to block that out.
It sounds super interesting. It sounds like almost we're going to give it back to Neil and Rick and ask them to comment that it should be inside the network already. Like, it shouldn't be a service that I'm buying from you to sit on top. It feels like it should come inside of my CDN. It should come inside of potentially network gear that I'm buying to go ahead and deliver that type of service.
Yes.
Is that going to
No, we agree. Like that, I was just talking to these guys before the panel that it's we definitely are starting to do a lot of ecosystem partnerships, because that's absolutely right. So any place that touches the video workflow, where video is being processed, video is being streamed live, video is being delivered, metadata. So if you think of Gracenote, they can probably sell this alongside. I don't know if it would be a straight up integration, but think analytics, metadata. Recommendations engines, but yes, particularly with the video workflow, it should absolutely go along with it, be baked in.
Interesting. Rick, answer me a question. What is the biggest request that you're getting from your customers today in running a video platform business?
How do we better monetize our content is without question the biggest ask. Most of what we do today is ad-based content. So better ad targeting, better viewability, increase in inventory when you have, especially around events that are already sold. We did a really interesting thing with the Academy Awards this last year, where they had basically sold out all of the content on Oscars.com and ABC-owned apps, and the ability to take that content and then syndicate it across the web to any entertainment-based news site or a community that might be interested to take content that's already sold. Frankly, they sold far more inventory than they could possibly deliver, and being able to take that content and then syndicate it to other places that would have an interested audience but don't have the ability to sell that kind of premium branded advertising. And then, I really think that the personalization that Hillary was just talking about, the ability for the data to create personalization, is really where that monetization is gonna ramp exponentially. Because right now, I think most of what you're seeing is kind of run-of-site advertising and or programmatic. And right now, there's all kinds of user interface issues with frequency capping and quality of video ads and competitive differentiation, Honda ad, then a Toyota ad, because one was direct sold, one came from a third-party programmatic warehouse. So monetization is definitely the biggest question we get on a daily basis. And it's encouraging because people or content owners are making now significant money in TV or OTT content and distribution. But of course, it still pales in comparison, excuse me, to traditional broadcast or theatrical content. So how do we make that experience better? I think one is ad targeting, but like I said earlier, to me, it's content targeting is what's more interesting, and I think where you go from 1x to 20x instead of 1x to 5x with just better targeted ads. If you can target the content to the community, to the person who's interested, and then figure out how you monetize that part, then you'll see a much better return.
Let me ask, and I'm going to throw this right back at you, and by all means, everyone come in. When you say things like frequency cap and targeting and brand conflicts and pods, and, if I'm a big media company, I'm relying on Freewheel to manage, most of that on my behalf, which is owned by Comcast. They have the greatest scale of anyone. I know obviously you have some ad tech inside of AOL and in some, we'll just say Oath, right? Because that's AOL and Yahoo. Do you see any evolution in the market from what is predominantly a Freewheel world to some other player? Does Google get to more significant scale in premium content, or is there some other party that's outside that we're not aware of?
I see significant interest from Freewheel customers in something else. And that's not a dig against Freewheel. They do a great job. But no, I don't really see a whole lot of new technology entering there. I mean, on the AOL Yahoo side, we have Brightroll, AOL. They all do predominantly the same thing. DFP is in that mix too. And they can all manage campaigns very well, and the frequency capping kind of issue is not really the Freewheel or DFP or AOL issue. It's once you start waterfalling through programmatic vendors from there, you start to lose all kinds of controls. So I think once we have a better way to excuse me, deliver and target the content, then we can better monetize it directly first party, and you don't have to rely as much on inventory fill across the whole programmatic waterfall, which is really where you start to get into trouble.
Okay, thank you for that. Sharuz, I have a Facebook account.
Cool.
I also have Instagram and Snapchat. I have a WhatsApp account. And I'm an old dude, right? And I know that the young kids aren't necessarily up in Facebook anymore as much as we think. So how does and the reason why I say all that is to say, how does Super Deluxe look at all the different social platforms that are out there, all the places you can distribute content, and try to decide at an audience level how things are going to potentially be relevant?
Do you mean in terms of which platforms we choose to distribute
Which
content
platforms
to?
you choose to distribute which content?
I mean, it's a lot of just taking where we found that idea first, whether it's a character that we've found that already had an Instagram account like Joanne. We just know that, all right, our job is to transform these Instagram users into our YouTube subscribers, or into our Facebook followers, or into registered users on our O&O. Usually we have that data and that understanding of where that IP's audience already is, and we just start there and we say, how do we make the best stuff to start migrating them throughout all the various Super Deluxe platforms, and hopefully deepening their relationship with that IP, with the end goal being hopefully that we can monetize direct from that audience.
Interesting. We're going to switch to Neil's favorite topic, which is AR/VR. So Neil, how does Cisco help the market in AR/VR? Or let's just ask first and say, do you believe that there is a market for AR and VR?
I'm skeptical of the market in VR. I'm not an AR fanboy, but I believe there's a lot more application to that. It's not as big a leap for users to get there. In VR, Cisco itself loves loves to do labs, loves to play with technology. There's a lot of really smart people running around with partners and customers and trying all sorts of new things. The question is there a market for it? You know, what's the addressable market? And in VR, you just don't see it. It doesn't mean it goes away. It means where does it find its home? But AR, you know, you could have an app on the phone. The phone doesn't need to change. It doesn't need to cost anything, and you can get that functionality out of it. It's a much lower hurdle for the market to start to adopt, and probably a much better experience and much more value for the end user. But I mean, we play in a lot of that stuff. The hard part is you know, it's always how do you monetize that? And with those nascent technologies, that's you know, it's not just VR. It's lots of them. HDR would probably be another one.
Interesting. Hillary, tell us about Watson and AR and VR and what you guys are thinking about, or are you thinking about it?
Not really. Not really. Again, we you know, IBM has a couple of video platforms now. We were asked the same thing about AR, VR. I would say nothing in the VR space. We're definitely looking in the AR space. In different industry verticals. So health, one thing I've heard, you know, tossed around is you can kind of virtually have a surgeon perform a surgery, you know, kind of halfway across the country with use of augmented reality. So we are. It's funny because IBM actually has. Yeah, no. I'm learning about IBM is it's kind of these mad scientists, research centers, and then the product team's like, oh, let's see how we can monetize this, and there'll be something under the tarp, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that cures cancer, but it really didn't work, and so I'm like, what? Can we talk about this and kind of like play with this? But so yes, they are doing things in AR. I don't think in the media entertainment space just yet.
Okay. Rick or Sharice, anything you want to add? I mean, I feel like there's been whole panels today on AR, VR, so I'll since we're a video anytime, anywhere, I'll ask you guys if you want to add anything on.
I'm just optimistic about it. Like I hope, and I know currently it seems like it's going to be really slow to take off, or if it takes off at all. But to me, it's really exciting that our primary mode of output is no longer going to be the rectangle in a video of a certain duration that fits that rectangle, but can instead be more interactive and less passive and more all-encompassing. I'm just creatively excited about what that can afford us.
I'll be interested to see what skilled filmmakers can do with it. That's absolutely. But at the same time, I'll be interested in how much people really want to see it or enjoy it or are willing to invest in it. Which is because it is an investment now, or what technology can do to make it less of an investment and have it just work, right?
Yeah, there was just some stat, I forget where it was, where some guy got the Guinness Award, I think it was like 30, 40 hours. How many hours? It's probably irrelevant when you get up that high, for actually wearing VR.
It was a Superlux video.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I swear I didn't know.
And it was
sitting in
amazing.
VR for like a long, well now I know why he could sit there for so long. Like
He
if I had a
sat in our
Superlux-
office during the whole time doing that.
Did he really? Did you have life support there just in case?
I wasn't there for most
low
of it. We
budget,
have
we don't
two
know.
floors. I stay on the other one.
Well, I mean, I just found it interesting that someone could wear those glasses for that long without vomiting.
Yeah.
Rick, is there anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I agree with Neil and Shrews. It's why. Yes, I'm bullish on it. It's great, but why? What are you going to do with it from a creator standpoint? That's what's going to drive any of it. I mean, we stream some VR. We do a bunch of AR, more in industrial Verizon. I mean, not VDMS, but more in industrial application. But yeah, what from an entertainment perspective, what can a really skilled creator do with it
Besides
that
gaming.
makes it not just, oh, hey, cool, it's VR. It's,
Yeah.
I need VR to deliver this experience that I want to deliver. Then we really start to see something.
What's the story you can only tell in VR? And how do you tell that story in VR when as a filmmaker, I can't control what you're looking at? Or how do you control what someone's looking at in VR? Like if all the action's happening over there, people probably aren't going to like it. So it's there's all these the new technologies, and someone's going to figure it out, and we're all going to be like, damn it, why didn't I think of that? And that's what's, I think that's part of what is so joyful about this stuff. It's like, how do you solve these problems?
Yeah, I think you're right with the storytelling though, right? Like if you're entertaining people, it's harder to do, right? If it's a game and immersive, then yes, that's
Game
a
makes
natural
total
fit.
sense,
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. before we go on to our last question, the highly provocative last question, we'll start with, I think, Sharuz and move through the group. 5G is coming. So how much time and energy are you spending on thinking about 5G and thinking about if there's going to be any impact on how you deliver video and what your business is?
I'm probably the outlier in the group, but it doesn't affect us at all. For us, it's really just we're making the stuff and then it gets distributed by these people. So. I mean,
I'll tell you, it may be because it was the panel, but like Mobile World Congress, we had a whole panel on 5G and media. And it was interesting that people wanted to talk that long about it. And they were predominantly from media companies. But I mean, so that's the way I felt going into it. But I'll ask the rest of the panel and see if there's anything that we should understand about it that you're looking at.
Yeah, I don't actually have any particular opinions about it. I mean, we've talked about any internet advancements, anything in, bandwidth speeds or anything around that, being able to kind of usher in the age of where we don't need legacy technology anymore. But I think it's really a content provider concern. So I see good things coming for broadcasters and content providers.
I hear about 5G a lot, and Cisco builds components and wireless networks, and it's a very large business, and they're very excited about the 5G. I'm interested, to me, I always want to see it work, and I think the technical aspects of the antenna systems that are required it'll be interesting to see how that gets solved as well. I mean, I think I want to, show it to me, just like to your point, like it's supposed to cure cancer. But let's see it.
Does it? Yeah.
That'd be cool if it did.
So obviously at large Verizon, there's a huge amount of focus on 5G. For us on a content distribution side, it's exciting from the big fat bandwidth perspective, but what I think is even more interesting from a creative and game-changing aspect that people don't so much think about is the latency difference. So we're talking single-digit millisecond latencies. We've got this robot platform in one of our innovation centers that's just a flat platform with 3 robots kind of balancing it, and you put a ball on it, and each one of those robots is all independently connected through a 5G network, and it takes less than a second for them to balance the platform properly so that the ball sticks right in the middle. So you think about what you're seeing today, just let's pull it back to TV everywhere, anywhere. Live sports streaming right now is a minute behind live, which causes all kinds of problems. A lot of that does not have to do with the latency of a network, but the ability to deliver content immediately, but not just deliver it, react to it from a user perspective. Two-way, single millisecond latency, to me, seems like it would enable just an unbelievable amount of different ways to interact with content and with events, and of course, individually, one-to-one as well. So
you're touching on the holy grail of I'm sitting at a sports event and I'm seeing it the real time, and that's just everybody's
and then
clear.
reacting to it somehow,
which would open up
exactly.
amazing experiences of what you could see on your phone if it was happening then.
So I think, so obviously for us, it's a huge bet for the future for Verizon overall, but I think from a media and entertainment and content perspective, that latency really is what will open things up.
It sounds like maybe it's going to help us better with autonomous cars. Sure. Because it can make decisions, which ultimately means then my windshield will be a screen. I can watch more Super Deluxe content. So maybe that's the real benefit.
Let me check my Verizon disclaimers first.
So one last question, and we'll bring it back to the group, and that's we'll go for each one of you and say so. It's 3 years from now. It's 2020, maybe we'll go 4 years, 2021, October 11th. And we at Deloitte think that's a big time in our industry because things like the Comcast-Disney deal is going to be done, and NFL rights are going to be back up again, and all these big, what could be cataclysmic events are going to occur in media between now and then. And obviously even some of the rights negotiations for things like Monday Night Football are going to happen in like 2018 or 2019. They're going to start then and be done at that point. So what should we expect related to video anytime, anywhere in 3 or 4 years? We'll start right here.
I think there's going to be the term that we were using earlier as we talked about it. forget what the exact term was, but essentially it's going to be a war over who owns these services that end up reaching the most consumers, especially as there's only like 4 or 5 different content companies now, and they're all merging with the distribution companies. And within those organizations, like Super Deluxe is a small company within Turner, which is owned by Time Warner, which is about to get owned by AT&T. And yet we have like all these different plays at every single layer, and I think all that's going to shake out. And at some point, everybody's going to be choosing between the AT&T app or the Netflix app or the Facebook app. And I'm not excited about it, but I think that's where we're heading.
Interesting.
I think solving the user experience problem, so yes, I agree with you as far as the, it seems like everyone's still subscribing to bundles for their entertainment, right? They're just different bundles, right? Google's my television provider, or whatever Amazon is, and I think that you're gonna see, 2 or 3, right, still win. Comcast will probably be one of them because they own everything and all the content, which is great from a consumer perspective. Because I think what you're going to see is the more that you have one or entity kind of in control of all the content, then it can apply the technologies that enable you to find all the content and get pushes to you or whatever to you that, hey, a new episode of this came out. And again, some of this is happening now, but I come back to the Facebook example and how scary good they are at delivering you things and ads, among other companies, but things that are starting to use these algorithms and video personalization and recommendations and things like that just haven't caught up. And everywhere you see a video screen, if you're ready to watch something, whether it's a plane or wherever you are, it should know what you already liked, what you already watched, and bring you right to it. So hopefully we'll see that.
I think on the delivery side, you'll see that Comcast, Spectrum, Cox, like the main players who have access to all the content and all the rights will have won out. And they also have the data pipe. And there'll be another merger and only 4 companies that control like 90% of all the content you want to watch. And so, yeah, your point is a really interesting one, is when AT&T owns Warner Brothers, owns Turner, owns, DirecTV, owns everything else, are they going to give that content, right? And if they bought the rights to the NFL, right, are they going to give that to Comcast? Or are they going to only have it on AT&T? So you're going to get these content wars that becomes an issue of, can I get everything I want to watch at all? Like, it goes the wrong way, just because of the corporate greed or corporate control, we'll say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's probably going to get a little bit worse before it gets better from a consumer standpoint. So you're already seeing Disney and I think Fox too saying they're pulling out of Netflix. They'll all create their own, and then they'll all realize that we don't want a different app or service for every piece of content. Great, I love CBS, but I'm not going to pay $6 because I'm not even really sure what shows are on CBS. And then sports rights, personal opinion, but I think are in line for a crash relatively soon. And then I think what we'll end up seeing, and I don't know who the winner of delivering this will be, but it'll be the Todd bundle and the Hillary bundle and the Rick bundle based on preferences and data and AI and Watson. And whether that's the end of the world as we know it or not, we'll see. But yeah, to me, whether it's a $100 cable bundle of everything or a $37 skinny bundle, it's the same thing. That's not innovation, it's just cheapening. And what's really going to change over the next 5 years is your own personal bundle based on exactly what you're looking for, based on your preferences, your data that we're able to mine somehow or that you voluntarily offer, hopefully, is the better solution there. But I think that's what we'll see probably more than 3 years out, but relatively shortly.
Awesome. So I guess open to see if there's any questions.
So you don't think that if, because I don't mind going to different apps to watch different shows that I like.
Right.
I do agree CBS charging $5.99 is ridiculous, but say each network charges 99 cents a month, and they can keep all of their content for their network for 99 cents a month. That's $1 per person.
Who's collecting the 99 cents a month?
The network itself. Like if the network app had its own, they could have their
I think you still, but even now, you still have 30 different apps, and now I need an app to manage my apps because I want to watch Empire. Where is that? I think that's where it's not so much the.
Empire's on Fox.
I know that.
So
So.
you can buy the Fox app for 99 cents.
Okay, but ask your mom what app Empire's on, and they don't know. I mean, if we all raise our hands and say, all right, do you want to watch Justified? Which app is that on? You know, my issue is not that it's not worth 99 cents. It absolutely is. It's a user experience issue.
As long as you can
How
discover
do I
them
get to
somehow
it?
and pay for them easily.
It's
you know.
That's
passive and
where-
active. You're actively going out and finding it as opposed to having it served to you. And people
Because I
like have.
watching stuff that actually I like, and I don't like being served crap that I don't like.
That's
That-
right. Most
exactly.
people don't, but it's changing, right?
So
And
that's
they-
my point to the
that's
personal
point.
bundle, right? Okay, well, now where are you going to get that? I don't know. DirecTV,
Well, you're
Comcast,
not,
Apple.
because the content's
you're
not
gonna
going to
get it
the
somewhere.
content owners aren't going to give it to you.
They
That-
will once they realize that it's not going to work.
Right. That, when
By
that-
all
that's-
doing it
That's not 3
themselves.
years, but yeah.
Great panel. Hillary, the love Watson is. One thing it's interesting to watch this, understands, listen. Why can't Watson, with very little input from an author, start to write scripts? Right?
Well, it did do a trailer. Were you aware of that? Yeah. So probably because it does natural language recognition. So it gets into a huge, like, interesting question about what it means to be human and artistic. But
Intellectual property, that's we go to school this time, anytime. But I'm just curious as to what would be the inputs, just everything, the Library of Congress?
lots of scripts, right? It would have to know because that's what we did for the trailer. So create a trailer for this horror movie. Well, it has to learn what tense moments look like. So it would be just feeding it lots of scripts and then saying, okay, and teaching it what were the good scripts and why, right? And then you could have it, in theory, generate a script. I wonder now, as I'm saying this, if anyone's
So,
working
but
on
the
that.
Watson's
I
getting
doubt it.
programmed by the same limitations
but
of a human
Yeah.
in that scenario, because that's the thing about art, right?
That's
So,
right. It's not. It's just going off of patterns and learning. You know, oh, that was good, and that created
What
drama.
she defines as
right?
good, Watson think is good, right?
All right.
Which I'm sure will be good. But still, the point of it's
Well, no,
not really Watson.
I'm not selecting the script, but yeah, it would have to have a wide variety of scripts, even ones I don't like.
I have two questions related to live and interactive content, especially the first one's for you, Rick. Looking at 5G, we are currently trying to live stream off drones, 360 content, obviously with quality subs. I've looked at the flying cow that AT&T is doing. Are there similar solutions coming from Verizon and other groups that would allow us to live stream while on the drone for broadcast? And then the second question is for you.
Sure. I think the main issue there is density. So sure, if you want to live stream off a drone in the middle of nowhere, then great. But if you want to live stream off a drone at the Super Bowl, you've got a big problem, and that's egress capacity. So yeah, flying cows. We bring in all kinds of cell on wheels, et cetera. Then you've got like TVU and others who are kind of bundling together multi-carrier modem packages. So yeah, more bandwidth helps that, and it's doable. I think the biggest issue is kind of event and certainly unknowable event, right? If we know, we spend, this is Verizon, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year at the Super Bowl just building network capacity, right? Or any other big event like that, where the biggest problem is in news gathering. Who could have known? Nobody, thankfully, about the whole Las Vegas issue a couple weeks ago, right? And so there's no way to pre-provision a whole bunch of network at a place that currently has no audience and may in 3 hours have hundreds of thousands of people because something happened.
Right.
So yeah,
AI.
5G, yes, bigger, fatter networks helps with that, but it's not the ultimate solution. I don't know what it is.
I think we need more of the IBM side when it comes to video AI and being able to do the real-time
Surveillance
analysis.
video, or there's a person with a red coat, and there's a person with a red coat, and yeah.
Alert the audience
Yes.
that this scene is turning violent, have an AR layer on top of the footage
Oh, sure, yeah. I was thinking of like surveillance, and I was just going down the security path, right? Because IBM does have solutions in the area around analyzing surveillance video and looking for patterns and things like that.
Are those tools available for producers yet?
So which specifically?
So specifically looking at live footage and being able to tell my audience if a scene is becoming violent, I want to be able to
Sure,
warn them
yes.
before I make that.
Yeah, so there are different Watson APIs that are available on their own for app developers or people building solutions on top of them that are available today. And then what we are doing is kind of bundling those together, training it in specific areas and use cases for media and entertainment. So we definitely work with live video and recognizing what's in live video. So yeah, I mean, it would be good to talk and understand a little bit more about what you're looking to do.
Well, we really appreciate your time and thank you for your attention today. And keep watching video.